I'm John Feffer. I'm co-director of Foreign Policy in Focus at the Institute for Policy Studies here in Washington, D.C. And I'm here with Stephen Zunes, who's a professor at the University of San Francisco and the author of several books, including forthcoming one on Western Sahara from Syracuse University Press, be out later this year. We're here to talk about the issue of empire. Stephen, we have a new political moment here in Washington, D.C. Is it also a new political moment for U.S. empire?
Yes, in the sense that I think it's going to be a somewhat different style of empire, but it's still based on an assumption of a hegemonic role for the United States. Obama is in many ways in the Kennedy-esque tradition of a more benign empire than what we certainly saw under the Bush regime, but one that assumes the United States will take leadership on a whole range of political, strategic, and economic issues.
Now, the ability of the United States under Obama, or anyone at this point, in this current economic situation to sustain a leadership role, is that even possible?
It is more difficult. I mean, for a time, the United States tried to maintain control through direct military intervention, CIA coups, subversion, that kind of thing. Then, thanks to the debt crisis, the U.S. could effectively keep control through the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, World Trade Organization, through structural adjustment programs and the like. The Bush regime was sort of a throwback to the cruder forms of intervention, and it clearly became, and it really exposed the phenomenon of what many people call imperial overreach. And in certain ways, there's some hints Obama has given that he recognizes that the United States can't do everything, that the U.S. is going to have to pull back some way, that he recognizes there are certain limits. But at the same time, I'm afraid it's not going to be enough. I think still there is there is a risk in Afghanistan and elsewhere of continuing many of the failed assumptions that didn't, of course, just start with the Bush administration, but have been a hallmark of U.S. foreign policy since World War II, and in many cases well prior to that even.
Let's talk about, for a moment, one of those assumptions, and that was during the Bush administration, kind of linkage between military intervention and democracy promotion.
Right.
Are we going to see something different with the Obama administration? Is there a time where perhaps democracy and empire become unlinked, or are they still going to be connected?
I'm afraid the past few years, the United States has done for democracy what the Soviet Union did for socialism. I mean, take these idealistic concepts and have it become associated in the minds of millions of people with empire, with domination, with repression, with loss of sovereignty. And at the same time, I hate to go back to this kind of realist paradigm where the United States does not care one way or another about democracy. There's also, of course, the hypocrisy in the Bush administration. I mean, in fact, U.S. security assistance to autocratic regimes, repressive regimes, actually increased. We heard about spreading democracy from Damascus to Tehran, and while certainly Syria and Iran could use more democracy, we didn't hear much talk about spreading democracy from Riyadh to Cairo. That and there are some hints, at least earlier in Obama's political career, that he was concerned about U.S. backing dictatorships in the Arab world and elsewhere. At the same time, I have not seen any indication so far in his foreign policy appointments or statements that it's going to be much of a reversal of that. One somewhat positive hint is that there seems to be a somewhat less statist orientation among some of his foreign policy advisors, people who attach a little more emphasis on global civil society, because what we found in countries that really have transitioned from authoritarianism to various levels of democracy, 75–80% of the time it has been through democratic civil society organizations engaged in strategic nonviolent action. the people power movements that we saw bring down dictatorships from Marcos to Pinochet to Eastern Europe and elsewhere. And I think that if there can be policies that can strengthen global civil society, that indirectly can help promote democracy. But I think any attempt by the United States to promote democracy in a more direct way will just do more harm than good.
Very good. That was Stephen Zunes, who's a senior analyst for us at Foreign Policy in Focus at the Institute for Policy Studies. You can find us on the web at www.fpif.org.